Hi there, it's Time-Lord here. Thank you very much for watching these videos. I'm talking about business and just tips and tricks how to not survive in business but thrive in business. I've been in business since 1996, January of that year. Got 30 years of success and abject failure, however you might view those. In today's video, I just want to talk about music and music themes. So recently, for a couple of clients, I got engaged with them and started using my limited composition abilities to compose some music for them. The first one is White Ready in Turin and London. They are a server data center. I talk about them in another video and how they helped me, but they're clients of mine. Been working with them on their videos for a number of years. And they also offset all of their emissions because it costs a lot in energy to actually run a data center, a server center, which they do very successfully. So Louisa, who with Franco heads up the company, they wanted a video that spoke of their green credentials, of what they're doing for the environment and going above and beyond. And I normally use a platform called motionarray.com, who do lots and lots of visual assets and music and sound. And I can download from those because I pay an annual fee and I can download royalty free and so on. However, the problem with a lot of music from sites like this, whether it be Motion Array or others, is some of the music is a bit like painting by numbers. It's muzak. It sounds as though it's been composed by rote, which it has, and it isn't always hitting the mark. You have to sift through quite a lot sometimes to find a decent track that works well and doesn't sound a bit naff, to be honest with you. So basically, for this one video for Louisa and Franco and White Ready, I then decided to set to and compose something in Baroque Italian style, which I did, and I set that to the video and it worked really, really well, and I dedicated the piece to Louisa as well. And it offset the images really well because the music can kill a video. Imagine that you're watching that thriller or murder mystery and there's no dialogue, but there's somebody waiting in the dark or creeping around in the dark, and there's the potential victim just trying not get noticed or whatever it might be, that sort of Midsummer Murder or Morse or whatever. If that music was a bit like Benny Hill or a bit happy and lively, it wouldn't fit the scene. It just wouldn't go well and you'd be laughing. However, the music that hits the mystery and the tension, that's what it does. And the same with other shows and so on, which are light-hearted and comedic and more comedy and so on. They have a more lively upbeat. So you get the idea. You need the theme to hit the imagery in front of you and what's being said and what's being acted out and so on and so forth. Because music can kill a video or not convey the message. And that is so important. We see it and hear it on adverts, on TV, on cinema, on YouTube all the time, either the correct music or the bad music, and the bad music can make us switch off. So I composed this music for Louisa and Franco, worked really well. Another client of mine, which I've been working with for a number of years, called Handels London, and Ian Andre is the CEO. They're an amazing company, logistics, but they've developed a niche space of where they work within logistics, and it's events, particularly gaming events, but events and so on. And I've done a lot of filming for them at these events, and I now post as well on social media for them, some videos a couple of times a week, just to tell a story. And Ian had the idea, the mad idea, he said, of having a theme music that when people listen to it and become familiar with it, they go, oh, that's Handel's. And so that's what I did. I started putting together some music, but then eventually we went to a composer we found online, gave them our ideas and gave them a sketch outline and so on. And they came up with something over a period of a couple of weeks or so. Anyway, and we'd had a chat to them beforehand in a meeting over the internet and so on, Zoom meeting. They seemed an ideal fit. Anyway, we then got the music and it just didn't quite hit the mark. Well, it didn't hit the mark. So I asked them for the stems and they went their own way, and I got the stems, which is, you know, the tracks, individual tracks. And I looked at this music and it was 42 tracks, different music. Ian had said he wanted something to reflect the global nature and different instruments and all the rest of it. And he'd done that, but it was just overkill. So I said to Ian, leave it with me. So over a period of 2 or 3 days, I then broke these stems down, and I can read music as well. Started breaking them down, fiddling around with them and so on. And I kept the bits we could use. I then started finding some drum beats, some riffs that I had access to. Started adding those in as well. And then Ian also wanted at the end, you know, like a Nokia phone turning on, or Windows on or off, or whatever, a pinging sound. So sort of part composed, part found one of those and put that in, but that was in the wrong key, the note. So I then had to go into something called Melodyne and change the key of that, change the key of some of the riffs, and then I started composing some bass line riffs and other bits and pieces to pad it out, and some strings, etc. And then I came across a riff on a sitar. And I know other people might be using it, but that's how music goes these days. But this theme was really good and it fits, but it was in the wrong key. So again, delve into Melodyne, put that in the right key, etc., etc. Anyway, over a period of about 10 days, I put this all together, and it took me about that long to do it. Partly because I was starting with something that somebody else had already composed. But we composed this theme tune, and Ian would say, not quite there, think about this, think about that, blah, 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 blah. And I did, and I put it all together, and I'm really quite proud of it. In that, it really reflects, because I've been working with Handel so long, it reflects them, reflects the energy of them, the energy of the company, and it really works well. Really, really works well. And so my tip to you is, if you want to gain recognition, traction, and so on, yes, you can use these royalty-free websites to download music and visual assets. However, it is always far better to get something more unique and slightly more bespoke. It can use existing riffs and so on, as I've done, but also with some input of personal composition or exclusive personal composition like I did for Louisa. So it really depends upon what you want, but I would say go for it. Start thinking outside the box. This is your opportunity to develop some of your brand and identity by finding a composer, getting them to compose and arrange some music that reflects you and what you are and your identity and ethos of your company. And expect to pay, I do mention budgets, anything between £500 to £3,000, depending on the rights you want, the licensing, how long it is, and so on. It can be that varied. But budget for it, and you will not be disappointed if you find the right person to do it. So that's me, that's the Time Lord. Live long and prosper. May the force be with you on your quest, because it's probably a mission from God. And hey, be careful out there.